Hey, everybody. So I had a couple more things that I wanted to cover with y'all in our collaborate session that we didn't get to because there's so much to talk about. But I want to make sure that y'all are clear on how we incorporate sources into a paper and also what you're going to be doing for that source incorporation quiz. So this is what I was going to show you in the collaborate session. Y'all have already been doing this kind of pretty much all semester. Well, in the 100 class, you did a lot of this, right, with your reader responses. It's a very similar kind of concept, right? So the way that we bring source material into a paper is we've got three ways we do that, right? We can take like let's start with the middle one right here. We can take whoops my little pen. There we go. We can take the entire source, entire article, or video, or whatever it is we're using as a source, and we can sum it up, right? So with summary, we take something long and we distill it down to the main ideas, or the main argument that it's making. And y'all did that a lot with those reader responses, so you're pretty familiar with that. With paraphrasing, you are taking information that you learned from a source and you are explaining that information again in your own words, right? That's key. And the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing is that with paraphrasing, it's going to be about the same length as what the original source had. So, for instance, if you're looking at an article and it's got, say, 3 sentences worth of information, and you turn around and you put that in your in your own words, right? It would also be about 3 sentences long. But if you put them side by side, the wording would be different. It would be your wording. So this is a really summarizing and paraphrasing is a really important way of showing how, or sorry, showing what you learned. Okay, there's no better way to show readers what you learned than to turn around and explain it in your own words, and that's hard to do, which is why people plagiarize, right? They take stuff word for word from sources and dump it into their papers and pretend like they wrote it when they didn't, because it's hard to put things in your own words. You have to really understand the content to be able to do that. And that's hard, right? But again, there's no better test than that. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That's what Albert Einstein said. And he was pretty smart. So, and then sometimes we do want to take stuff from sources word for word because, I don't know, we like the way they said it, or it just explains it really nicely. We just don't feel like we could do a better job, or we want to let someone speak for themselves, maybe an expert or something. So in that case, we can take those words, exact words from a source. We can do that. But the key is to put it in quotation marks when we do. Okay. And the general rule with all research papers, not just in my class, but any research paper ever, is that only about 10 to 15% of the entire paper can be directly quoted from your outside sources. Otherwise, it's not really your paper anymore, and you're not really giving us anything that we couldn't get by just going to the source ourselves, right? But we don't want to do that. We're lazy. We want you to tell us. But then some stuff, yeah, you're going to want to keep in the original, and that's fine. You just need to be choosy about it, selective about it. So there you have it. Let's look at some examples. Right? So I read a book. I read a lot of books. I'm a big nonfiction reader. I like to read nonfiction. And a book that I recently read that's, of course, about food, because you know me and my obsession with food. It's called The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. And this is my summary of the book. So I take the entire book and I just sum it up for you in one sentence. So in his book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, Michael Pollan compares industrial farming with organic farming, and he finds some surprising similarities. So surprising, of course, because when we see, for instance, the price tag on organic produce versus non-organic, the difference in the price tag would suggest that there's a substantial difference in how those foods are raised or produced or whatever. But this book reveals, it says, that it's actually not as different as we have been led to believe, and that quite a bit of it is just marketing more than anything else. So this is a paraphrase, okay? Now, before you ask, just do I need to cite a page number? Yes, but we're not quite at the citation part yet, so I just want to focus on the paraphrase itself for the moment. So basically with this, I've taken a fact that I found in the book, and I tell you that fact myself in my own words, but it's about the same length as what the book had. So in the book, it was a couple of sentences. For me, it's a couple of sentences too, but in my own words. So if you put them side by side, they would look different. But you know, it would be the same, the numbers. Okay. One of the many eye-openers in the book is the prevalence of corn in the American diet. Of the 45,000 items in the average supermarket, more than 25% of them contain corn, usually in the form of high fructose corn syrup, which is used as a preservative, a browning agent in breads, of course, a sweetener. It's in a lot of things you wouldn't expect, like pasta sauces, ragu pasta sauce, or a loaf of Sara Lee bread, or whatever. So notice I didn't put the numbers in quotation marks, okay? Because I don't have to. There's really no way to paraphrase numbers. 45,000 is 45,000. I don't need to spell out the number FORTY-FIVETH. I don't need to do that. Nobody wants to read that. This is why we write numbers the way we do. Same thing with I don't have to spell out TWENTY-F, percent. Okay, 25% is 25% is 25%. Now, the language surrounding the numbers is my own, but the numbers are not. And there's really no way to rephrase numbers. That's why people who like numbers, because they are what they are, right? But like I said, the language around it is different. My explanation. Okay, so this would be a direct quote from the book. And let me get rid of the thing right here. Okay. Direct quote from the book. Pollen poses the questions, and we can tell where the quote is beginning and where it is ending because I've put quotation marks both before and after. You want to make sure it's on both sides of the quote. Otherwise, it's kind of impossible to tell either where the quote starts or where it begins. Is organic food better? Is it worth the extra costs? So again, yes, I would need to cite a page number for that, but don't worry about that right now. But if you looked at that page in the book, say it's page 17, whatever, you would see those exact questions written that exact way because I am quoting him directly. Okay. Versus a lot of times the best way to bring in materials to do like a little mix and mash of paraphrased information with the occasional kind of shorty quoted bits sprinkled around inside. Okay. Pollen points out, so you can tell though where I end and he begins, right? Because of those quotation marks. That's really important. Otherwise, I'd be plagiarizing from him. Pollen points out that processed foods, while not necessarily nutritious or appetizing, are, to quote him, highly profitable and infinitely adaptable. So again, it's clear where I stop talking and Pollen starts talking, and I cap it off with a second set of quotation marks to make it clear, okay, he's done, now I'm talking again. So I know you're probably thinking like, nah, duh, everybody knows you got to have quotation marks on both sides. But if I had a nickel for every time a student started a quote but never finished it, I would be a very wealthy woman. So please make sure that you do that. Okay, so let's talk about what you're going to do for that source incorporation quiz that will look like, where is it? It will look like, let me pull it up real quick. Sorry, I know you're like, this is lame, but I was making this very quickly. So there it is. It will look like this when you pull it up. So I've given you a link to that TED Talk. You're going to watch the video. You can watch it as many times as you need to. It's not super long. It's like 6 minutes long. But once you feel ready, after having watched it at least one time, what you're going to do is on this, quote unquote piece of paper, or what would be a piece of paper, you're going to write a brief paragraph, like 3 to 4 sentences tops. Doesn't need to be any longer than that. That does the following things. Okay. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in this exact order per se, but it needs to include all of these things, these 3 things here. Okay. Hold on. See if I can ink on this draw. All right. So these 3 things, right? You're going to summarize the video in like a sentence. Basically, what is the video about? You're going to paraphrase at least 2 pieces of information, like specific pieces of information from the video in your own words. And then somewhere in all that, or you could have it at the very end, or you could have it at the beginning, or you could have it really anywhere you want to, but somewhere in this paragraph, you're going to directly quote the lady who's speaking at least one time. So I would suggest that, if you're watching the video and maybe taking some notes on it as you watch, that anything that you want to keep in the original, you go ahead and you put it in quotation marks in your notes so that you don't forget to do it later. Okay. And then I know we haven't talked about this yet, but it's for extra credit, and you don't get penalized if you get it wrong. But if you get it right, you get extra credit. So you might as well just try, right? If you can cite this video correctly using in-text citation, okay, then I will give you extra credit. If you get it wrong, nothing bad happens to you. Just try, right? But if you get it right, if you happen to get it right, then boom, extra credit. You probably already know how to do it. You just don't realize it yet. So just go with your gut and give it a try and see if you get it right. And if you don't, nothing bad happens. Got nothing to lose. So all this stuff you're just going to type directly below. All right, I've got in draw mode right now, so I can't. But just underneath, down here. Okay, isn't working. Anyway, where it says type your paragraph directly below, just type it in down there. Okay, type your answers, and then you save it. You upload it like you would a paragraph or an essay, and get a grade, a good grade. You can do this. So this is a chance to just practice, before we actually do the paper, because you don't want to get it wrong on the paper. If you get it wrong on this, then it's not a huge deal. It's just a 10-point quiz. No, you're not gonna. No one would ever fail the class over something so small. But it's your chance to try it, see what makes sense or is confusing you. If you get something wrong, it's all right. I'll let you know, and then that way you can do it correctly on the paper. Okay. So if you have any questions about any of this as you're working, please let me know. Come to my office hours or send me an email or whatever. And yeah, keep up the good work. Bye-bye.